Um, Good morning, or I should say, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Um, ago, I remember coming across this article about the history of Cartoon Network, not understanding or knowing that an individual who I was synonymous with throughout the history and the journey and my love for this glorious sport we cover called professional wrestling, I came to find out that the pioneer in that for a child like me growing up in the early 2000s and in this new millennium, the pioneer for that was Ted Turner. It boggled me for a second because, due to the fact that I now knew that this man owned TNT, TBS, anything Warner, and now knowing that he was behind a set of decades to where my childhood grew, gave so much more precedence to the individual that Ted Turner was. Although, throughout what kayfabe would bring us to have, they wanted me to hate the individual. But all in all, when it pertains to professional wrestling, when it pertains to television, indeed, 3 days ago, they lost a pioneer. So, doing all, I'm here alongside my co host, the Peep Snake, here to at least give tribute to an individual so distinct in the history of this sport that we cover today. So, Peeps, you have the floor, my friend.
Well, thank you. It's bittersweet, it's odd, but it's also kind of full circle when we talk about Ted Turner, who passed away at the age of 87, uh, passing away from complications to Lewy body dementia, which is what was, for those that may think they've heard that diagnosis before, that's what the late comedian Robin Williams was diagnosed with. And if you are to realize what dementia does to a person, then you can tell that it can riddle the person's memories down to where they've gone. But if you were to peer back behind all of that and go over the memories that were Ted Turner's, but also memories that he created over the years, not just as a pioneer for the business world, not just the fact that he actually was a professional yachter, because he won a competition as a yachter back in the early 80s. He also, not only, as my partner just stated, created so many television networks as a media conglomerate. The one important part of this equation that brings the importance of Ted Turner to us all is the fact that that piece of the jigsaw puzzle that connects all of us to professional wrestling is that, and I will say this for those that are not historians of it, the people that have watched wrestling like I am. If there was no Ted Turner in the wrestling business, the wrestling business that we know of today probably would not exist in the form that we see right now. Ted Turner owned lots of television brands and television station, WTBS, which was cable. And on his cable network, since he had a diehard love of professional wrestling, he wanted and knew the importance of having professional wrestling on his network. And that was why he had Championship Wrestling from Georgia, Georgia Championship Wrestling, and later Jim Crockett Promotions on his network. And knowing that professional wrestling was a driver of ratings for his network, he made sure that that love of wrestling stayed there. Going further, knowing that at some point wrestling was going to be wrestled, there's the pun intended, wrestled away from him through Vince McMahon, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, as we've talked about and chronicled on this show many times, of that Saturday Night Massacre, where in July of 1984, Vince McMahon basically came and bought up all of the time that was on WTBS and put his WWF network at the time on there. The importance of wrestling cannot be lost in how the reasoning behind why it was there. If you get cable and you put professional wrestling on the map, you give all of the attention to those that are out there. Ted Turner had the foresight of making sure that the business and the sport that we all love as professional wrestling got its attention, got its eyeballs because of that. And because of this, Vince McMahon saw the importance of getting wrestling on a cable network to then go national. That's the importance and the foresight that Ted Turner had that Vince McMahon wanted to grab. You fast forward a little bit later on, 1988, when Ted Turner eventually bought Jim Crockett Promotions, which became WCW, and turned that over the years with the struggling ups and downs into a media conglomerate and a wrestling competitor for the then WWF at the time. And the call was made famously by Ted Turner to Vince McMahon that, congratulations, Vince, I'm in the wrestling business. And Vince would retort, well, congratulations, Ted, I'm in the entertainment business. And we go forward so many years of WCW and the Monday Night Wars and all of the back and forth between Vince McMahon and Ted Turner and all of the things that happened. And if it were not for Ted Turner and his insight into what wrestling became, what wrestling is, there would be no Attitude Era. There would probably be no Stone Cold Steve Austin. There would probably be no Rock, at least in the extent that we know it today, because of the forced competition that Ted Turner and WCW had. And the importance that was brought up by Ted Turner is not lost on anyone. I'll give you two names that give you tweets that showed how important Ted Turner was. William Regal, who worked in WCW as Lord Steven Regal. He said, look, I am sad to hear of the passing of Ted Turner. Ted brought me to the United States and paid me and allowed me to feed my family for 6 years. Ted also took care of my and my family's green cards. Rest well. Think about that. And of course, the person that is mostly in gets the props for what happened with the turnaround of WCW, which was the former president and executive producer for WCW, Eric Bischoff. He changed my life. He changed the lives of my children. None of us would be here today without Ted Turner. Turner knew from the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, all the way until WCW was sold to WWE in 2001, all the way up to that point. The importance of professional wrestling needed to be fostered, cultivated, and cared for, and gave it its own slice of the pie of its importance. And I will reiterate, if there was no Ted Turner in this wrestling business, there would be no Monday Night Wars, there would be no Attitude Era. And a lot of the stars that you have taken for granted over the last 15, 20, 25 years would not be known in the same light as we celebrate them today.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you so much, peeps, for that. So, here at Same, we go ahead and tell the family, friends, and loved ones of Ted Turner that we give our condolences and to one where Ted Turner rest in peace. Same is about to go on the air. See you guys in the system. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of the phenomenon known to mankind at Saturday afternoon's main event. If you do not know who I am, whether you are dumb, stupid, blind, or just plain irrelevant, I suggest you go ahead and go back to school or go to your local library, get the biggest dictionary you can find, preferably Merriam-Webster, and look me up under the word phenomenal. Of course, guys, it is not a phenomenal one. And of course, I'm not here alone because I'm joined by my co-host, comrade, brother from another mother and dimension, you name it, we got it. The one and only limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun who is not having a hard time holding his alligators down. So, guys, without further ado, give me 2 claps and a peep snatch.
Woo!
There we go.
Yeah, I had to give you a good one there on that one. After that eulogy that we did, we've still got a really loaded show today. I am glad that you're joining us for all of the different places that you're watching us, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitch, whether it's on X or wherever the places that you can go and see our show. We thank you. We're glad that you're here. And as always, as we say before, since this is a wrestling weekend, we get you ready with the 3 tenets that prepare you for the entirety of the show. And those 3 tenets are laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. There you go.
There we go, peeps. Well, thank you very much for that. And it seems like we even have cool people going ahead and chiming into the show from our YouTube platform. You got Jamal 2 Crazy Gaming saying good morning to all, giving out an RIP to Ted Turner. And of course, we have a new Anthony Manzano, 3551. He says, I just subscribed to the channel. Hi, fellas. How are you today? We are good. We're chilling, and we're happy to see that you're even in tune, subscribing to the channel and showing up for your first Saturday here with us on Saturday afternoon's main event. So shout out to you, Anthony. But beyond all, peeps, like you said, it is a stacked show, so I think it's only fair that we get started with the show. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and see here. You know, I would have a cameraman if it came down to it, but, you know, I don't have Uncle Triple C money. Which, shout out to him and shout out to the one and only Mr. 411. But, beyond all, you hear this theme, it's time for one thing and one thing only. Peeps, you don't have to brace yourself anymore, so you're okay, but it's time for 3 Rope Talk. All of the professional wrestling news you can possibly get that consists within the span of the squared circle. We begin 3 Rope Talk today, speaking about our Raw and SmackDown review. The road to Backlash has been complete. Backlash taking place later tonight in Tampa, Florida at the Benchmark International Arena with about 3 matches on the diluted $30 platform known as ESPN.
Yes.
You paying
including one that's going to be actually shown on cable live. So go figure. 2
of them, from what I'm hearing, peeps.
Okay.
5 matches in total. 2 of them. I digress. First one of the day. Look what WWE's doing to us, man. But of course, the go home shows for SmackDown. Let's not dilute ourselves, right, peeps? What a show! How terrible can you possibly get again, WWE?
Yeah, it has its ups and downs. Yes, so I guess if we're looking at it right now, they did as best as they can to kind of blend over what they needed to do and try to build for Backlash, especially on the Raw side. It was quite interesting, especially at the beginning of the show with Roman and Seth and how they were trying to get that kind of feel. We've been having a lot of complaints with WWE as far as how they've been doing their go-home shows going into pay-per-views, especially since this is now after WrestleMania. They needed to do something pretty fair in working that in. So, yeah, that's something they needed to fix up.
Absolutely. Beyond all, though, the death of the gingerbread man has somewhat taking the WWE by storm. Of course, we got a funeral last night, imposing all these different photos and memories compiled of the gingerbread man being at every WWE big historic event and even being a reacting streamer to the famous CM Punk return, being at the Kurt Angle milk bath. You know, you gotta thank God for CGI and AI in WWE. I just have to say, perfect job. But but yeah, all the theatrics from Ray Phoenix and our Truth. and you get to Sami Zayn, kind of going ahead and reiterating what we've been saying for the last 3 weeks. SmackDown, closing SmackDown used to be important.
Yes.
Peeps, it feels just like yesterday. Back in 2007, I was watching Undertaker and Batista go ahead and fight like gladiators for the World Heavyweight title inside a steel cage. Now we're having funeral for gingerbread men for main event SmackDown.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
This is partially TKO, I think, which we'll probably end up at some point talking about again, because TKO can't get out of their own way. And I think also part of this is the Triple H creative of trying to get over certain things. First and foremost, the idea of the gingerbread man was funny when they initially did it. This is the expression beating a dead horse. This is beating the dead horse, dragging it out into the street and getting it run over by a car and a bus and a train. At some point, you gotta let it go. And I think that they using this to close out SmackDown made zero sense other than it to be somewhat humorous and also bring back Lil Yachty, who showed up at the end of the show to try to reintroduce himself to this feud with trying to get Sami Zayn over as a heel, even though he's really looked at as a face, but he's kind of being a tweener with the fans. I don't know. But whatever it is, this is the kind of stuff that we've dumped on WWE about, because some of it is just insane. Ridiculous even.
At least it's not dog food, peeps. Okay.
I would say stay tuned, but who knows?
Only in the world of professional wrestling, right?
Yes.
But we got one thing, and I feel that this needed to be spoken upon.
Yes.
The future contract signing of the WWE Championship match at Clash in Italy. Yeah, yes. Okay, we know Gunther, Cody Rhodes is supposed to happen down the line. But yes. What about that interaction with Heyman? I don't know if you think you know what I'm alluding to, but
are we thinking that there is going to be, until it happens, if it happens, that kind of glimpse of either Cody maybe turning heel and getting a Paul Heyman on his side? Or is this going to be if it's going to be one of those things where Walter is a Paul Heyman guy? And I'm going to tell you the reason why the match itself makes sense, because if we go into why this whole favor and everything was turned in the way it was, the story that they've created for this, you kind of have to go back almost 2 years ago. Yep. And you'll see where I'm going with this. If you remember Crown Jewel, November of 2024, the main event of that show was Walter and Cody Rhodes. Champion versus champion, the first time that they fought each other. Cody won that match. If they played this the right way, they could have used that to build into why this favor needed to be done the way it was done. And I think that that's going to be a storyline beat if they use it, that they can put in the chamber and then use later at some point, because they're building toward Italy. This would make good sense to use as the impetus for this feud.
Indeed. But you also alluded to what I was thinking in my head. Are they planting seeds? Peeps, They have to be planting seeds, right?
Yes.
Paul Heyman going ahead and retorting back to Cody after Cody says to him that, oh, Roman dumped you, Punk dumped you, and Brock retired and left you in the dust. Is it you that needs them more than they need you? And, Paul begins to leave the ring and says, oh, I'm not the one that's in the dust, Mr. Rhodes. At some point, sooner or later down the line, they'll all need a wise man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know what? Now, thieves. I mean, you know what?
Yes.
A heel American nightmare and Paul Heyman, the man that kind of brought Dusty back to wrestling post-retirement.
Yes.
I'm just saying. If that's not a way to cook, you know what? But then again, it's WWE we're talking about. TKO's
Yes.
milking everything Cody right now, especially with him being a babyface. Is never gonna happen. Oh well, I'm giving up. Okay,
Yes.
that's enough glory talk for today for the Gooners out there in WWE. But
Yes.
peeps, beyond that, the Raw review, mainly the top story, the number one thing going ahead and going on right now is, of course, the match between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight title taking place tonight. Now,
Yes.
we know this is going to happen. We know this is going to be a big match. But peeps, what are the thought processes on the contract signing itself? Because it seems like Jacob is really taking, the next step into feeding into this narrative that he's going to be world champion.
Yes. And it had to be done because what we've been seeing since Roman won that World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania is that Roman really isn't a face. Roman is just a cocky tweener right now. He's acknowledging his fans, but for the most part, he's still the same conceited, cocky character that he portrays on camera. Whereas Jacob is on the come up, and he needs to have that, as he said, he needs that championship because he's got kids, he's got family to feed. And it works in the sense that the quote unquote common man, the person that the black sheep of the family that everybody looked at as, oh, well, you've been to jail, you've had legal issues, you've done this, and you've done that. You're not on the same level as the other NOYE family members that are in the business. And he has to scratch and claw to get to what he wants. And it shows in the promo, and it shows him bringing the Tongan death grip in as kind of like that extra element of danger that's needed in this whole deal. That definitely works.
Okay. Well then, look, peeps, of course, we will be taking care of our Backlash predictions later on at the end of the show. But peeps, that is it for our Raw and SmackDown review. We move over to another thing, of course, guys. This is a perfect update that we have to give you individuals here at Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. It was a couple of months ago when we all sat there and we remember where we were when Raja Jackson beat the holy hell out of Psycho Stu to the point that the man was hospitalized and broke and pretty much fractured a couple of pieces, body parts, and, of course, we know that Raja had an impending case on him and all this different type of other media stuff was going on. But we have an update. It seems that we are about to reach a sentencing.
Yes.
But
close.
Only of what? He's getting the WWE release clause in 3 months. 90 freaking days.
I guess he's going to be on the Roman Reigns schedule where he'll only serve when he needs to. But I digress. There you go. Here's number 2.
One of the day. But
yes,
peeps, what is it that we're hearing about this?
Well, basically what we're hearing is that for those that don't remember, this happened last summer where Raja Jackson was supposed to be at an independent show that was run by a family member's promotion of the NOYE family. His name is Black Pearl, and has a wrestling promotion called Knox Professional Wrestling. And what happened was that there was supposed to be an incident where Raja Jackson was going to go into the ring. He was going to have some sort of a confrontation. But what happened was there was a confrontation out in the parking lot with these wrestlers, including a wrestler named Psycho Stu, who was supposed to, I guess, rough him up or do something. And I guess Raja Jackson was not smartened up as to what was supposed to happen. We fast forward later on that day, and Psycho Stu was dropped by Raja Jackson, who is an MMA fighter, and was pummeled well over 20 times in the face until somebody broke that up. And gurgling on his own broken teeth and blood, finally was broken up. And criminal charges were eventually filed after months and months at what happened. Now we get to what may be eventually a conclusion to this, because Psycho Stu has had to retire because of his well-being in the wrestling business after that injury. And the sentencing for Raja Jackson is going to be in June, but what was suggested is going to be 90 days in county jail, $81,703.38 in restitution, and 2 years probation. That is it for somebody that literally could have murdered someone in the middle of a wrestling ring. And not only was that happen, it was live streamed on a social media page that eventually got his account suspended. So that's where that situation is right now. And I guess once the sentencing comes up next month, they'll see if it's going to be within that parameters of that. But yeah, that's kind of where they are right now. Disgusting. I know Mr. 411 and I and you, we all talked about this when the event happened. Hopefully that there's a result where something happens a little more than this, but at least something is coming out of this.
Peeps. We all know what's going to happen, okay? He wants to put Psycho Stu in a chokehold. Once he gets to jail, he can put a lot of people into chokeholds. Anywho, guys, we're done covering Roger Jackson for now here on Saturday afternoon's main event. The reality is we go ahead and move on to our next piece of news. And this is great news because, look, one of the docuseries that brought us Benoit, Sensational Sherry, The Last of the Von Erichs, most recently, Becoming Muhammad Hassan. Guys, Dark Side of the Ring Season 7 is going to be here in a short couple of weeks. Peeps, I was looking at this list of topics that they're going over, and I am in a fight for my life. Look, the rise and fall of TNA, which is 3 parts, Big Boss Man, One-Legged Zach Gowen, Paul Orndorff, Missy Hyatt, and Samoa Joe versus Necro Butcher.
Yes.
Peeps, I'm not going to lie to you. This might be one of my favorite seasons of Dark Side of the Ring to come. What are your thoughts?
I love the lineup. I love the fact that when we get to see how they film these and how they come up with the stories for it, these are the kinds of things that you really want to see. And it's funny when we talk about how when you become a wrestling fan and you've been a wrestling fan for as long as we have, the thing that becomes another icing on the cake, so to speak, if you want to add it into that sense, is the backstage stories behind all of the things that we see and talk about that we don't know about. And these are kinds of the stories that we like to hear about. The rise and fall of TNA, a 3-parter. The first week is going to be 2 episodes. So it's going to be 2 hours of the first showing, and then the third part of it is going to be shown the following week. So to know that that's going to be the case, I am all ears for that. We know Jeff Jarrett has been a part of Dark Side of the Ring with other wrestlers and other things that he's talked about and other projects that Vice TV has done, especially with the Territories, Tales from the Territories, and some of the other documentaries and the rise and fall of WCW that they did also a couple of years back. So that was going to be good.
Screwjob,
Montreal, exactly.
The World According to Marty Jannetty. I remember they did the Bash at the Beach 2000 episode. I mean, again, this is Dark Side of the Ring. I can't be mad at this.
Yes, it's going to be great.
I'm excited.
It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to the Missy Hyatt story because I really want to see how many more stories are anybody going to say about Missy Hyatt and her impact in this. And I'm pretty sure if Mr. 411 was here, he'd probably have a couple of jokes with Missy Hyatt in there too. So yeah, but yes, the Boss Man, Zach Gowen, I'm going to be very interested in. Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, I think will probably be one of the ones.
The rise and fall of TNA, because I wonder if they probably have Dixie Carter in on this. Because if I have to see Dixie come across my screen, that will have to be one of the much more funnier moments.
Yes.
I wonder if
that will be quite interesting.
Maybe some excerpts from Hogan. You know, make this as big as possible. If this is the route that they're going, I like it. And Joe Butcher, look, I want to see how they film that as well.
Yes.
So it's all going to be great. But, peeps, those are our thoughts. Thank you for that. We move on to our last piece of news here on 3 Rope Talk, and that is our review of this past Wednesday's AEW Dynamite. Although, due to the fact of the NBA playoffs taking place and my Knicks going up 2-0 at the time, which they are now 3-0, get the brooms ready.
Let's keep the fingers crossed.
Although that was the case, I did watch Dynamite after. So, peeps, look. What were your thoughts on the show? How did you feel about it?
Well, first off, the beginning of the show was really good because they were the first wrestling product, and to actually be able to, after the announcement of Ted Turner passing, would be the one that you would think would be most directly involved in in some kind of a eulogy or tribute, and that's exactly what they did. Is they started off the show with a really heartfelt tribute with Tony Schiavone talking about the importance of Ted Turner and why the TBS and the TNT championships are so important, and having Ted Turner's network's names on it basically as their television championships for the AEW brand, and talking about how important that was. And while they were doing the eulogy and then giving attention to Ted Turner and how important his networks were to the wrestling business, they also had a reunion with Sting, who came out and talked about how important Ted Turner was and how the relationship with the fans and the wrestling business and what the importance of Ted Turner was. So that was a really good opening to start that off. I thought that was really well done. The overarching story that happened with AEW Dynamite was the main event. The main event being Kevin Knight getting his world championship match with Darby Allin. And circling that whole deal, because it wasn't just Dynamite. They also did Collision, which was done directly afterwards. It was a 3-hour show. They did 2 hours of Dynamite and 1 hour of Collision. The match between Darby Allin and Kevin Knight was really good. I don't know. Kevin Knight looked like he was about to kill himself while he did the move off the top rope where he had Darby Allin draped across the table and then jumped off the top rope and hit him with a clothesline. And I thought he broke his leg the way that Kevin Knight came down and was limping the rest of the show. But eventually, Darby Allin did prevail. He did win. And what they seem to be doing is they're giving, in this short reign of Darby Allin, it seems like they're giving him like a year's worth of title defenses in a small amount of time.
Yep.
And that seems to work for what they're trying to do to get Darby Allin over, because I don't think Darby Allin's world title reign is going to be a long-lived one. It's going to be for a good time, not a long time, as the expression goes. And an important part of this is that they were bringing in the one and only MJF, who's still looking for his rematch. He's still looking for, when am I going to get my title shot in my rematch? Darby's whole entire mindset is, give me something that's important to you, and I'll go ahead and I'll give you that title match. And well, wouldn't you know it, they actually went on the tangent of making this match a title versus hair match, because apparently they've made it known that MJF went to Turkey to get hair transplants and get his hair coiffed right. And that's what the stipulation that Darby Allin brought up and seems to have been agreed upon. So when we get to Double or Nothing in Queens, May the 24th, that's going to be the main event for the AEW World Title. Title versus hair.
Are you sure? Are you sure, peeps? It hasn't really been agreed to, or are we?
Well, this is what they're alluding to, and we saw MJF kind of look like that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. But it's like, if you want the title shot, that's what it's going to be. So that's kind of where they ended that segment of the show before they led into the beginning of the Collision aspect of the third hour. So that's the selling point. That's where they're going with this.
Wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. That's the
Yes.
name of the game. Holy hell. Oh my God.
Yes.
Lord have mercy. Imagine. Can you just imagine? But you know what? I'll save it. You said it hasn't been agreed upon yet. It's not fully official, but that's where they might be. Let's give it time. Right, people?
Yes.
Let's just give it time. Let's just give it time.
Yes.
But that marks the end of Three Road Talk here on Saturday afternoons, ladies and gentlemen. From that, peeps, give us the ratings.
I'll give you the ratings, which was quite interesting, as we've been telling you the tale of the ratings that have shifted. NXT beat AEW for the first time in 10 weeks. Now, that's big, considering.
Wait,
NXT,
AEW lost?
yes, NXT beat AEW in the ratings. 641,000 viewers for NXT with a 0.11 in the ratings, where
Okay.
AEW got 590,000 with a 0.10 in the ratings. Now, I think what happened with NXT winning,
NBA playoffs.
AEW on Wednesday, as you just alluded to, for a lot of people,
NBA playoffs.
they were watching the NBA playoffs, especially if you were a Knicks fan, you were watching the Knicks game. So I'm sure that had something to do with it.
I
But
mean, think
even
about it,
more,
Pete. Philly, New York, two
yes,
big wrestling cities going up against each other.
yes,
It's convoluted. This will happen. This will happen. There's
yes,
50,000 plus just watching the next game. I can see it.
yes. But go figure the ratings for Collision, because remember, as I said before,
Of course.
the AEW they did 590,000 for the first 2 hours of Dynamite. The Collision aspect, the third hour that they did, got 429,000 viewers with a 0.07. So in general, Collision that 1 hour did really well considering the week before they did over almost 350,000. So the ratings were really good on that front. They were able to make sure that people were watching, especially after the playoffs were over with. They turned back over and said, "Whoa, wrestling is on. Let me go ahead and watch that." And that's basically what they did.
Huh. But you look at that. Even with
Yeah.
the NBA not even being on Turner no more, look at that. Still making
Yes.
an impact.
And the last ratings I will give you are what happened for TNA last week, because they're usually running a
Of
week
course, yeah,
behind
they
from when we
usually,
do the
yeah.
show. The week before, we talked about how they did 175,000, which is awful.
Yes.
They rebounded some. They did 209,000 with a 0.03 in the rating. So those ratings did actually jump back up for TNA. And they're going to be doing that hopefully as they build towards Slammiversary, which is happening next month. They got to start building and building for their next pay-per-view.
Even though production sucks and the audio quality is just
Oh, the audio for me is the thing that the audio, I bring that up every time. The audio watching TNA, it literally sounds like they're in an empty church. The way the sound reverberates around the building, the way that they do their television. The production could be better, but the in-ring work is still decent. It's
indeed.
some of the production has to the sound, the audio is not good.
Yeah, so Carlos Silva got to do something about that. But beyond all, Peeps, thank you for the ratings, my friend. Now we
Yes.
move over to our question of the week. Of course, guys, we always get these questions. You send them in during the week of the show. If you think it is that damn good, we'll make sure to go ahead and guarantee a shot on being spotlighted for the week's episode. So look, here's the truth. Here's the reality. This one is a two-part question from Master Sean 007, returning once more for a cool little bit. But he says, greetings, gentlemen. Concerning Dark Side of the Ring, what future topics would you like to see covered? And what's up with Tony Khan's infatuation with Vince Russo? I thought Tony didn't like him. What could they possibly be planning?
That's interesting.
Tony Khan and Vince Russo teaming up together.
Yeah.
Why
Well,
I'm not gonna say it.
yeah, because then we'll all be saying I digress for the rest of the show.
Not happening. But I'll cover the Dark Side of the Ring one.
Gotcha.
For the most part, peeps. Look, what are some topics that have taken place within the last decade for the new generation to expound on? Right? Because we've seen Dark Side of the Ring cover some good stuff, like the plane ride from hell.
Yes.
Where your boy Ric Flair was mooning and, like, shucking and diving, slicing and dicing. I'm turning into Clyde Frazier. Oh my gosh, too much Knicks basketball this week.
The sagacity as he swishes and dishes to the hoop.
But all in all, when it comes down to now, what can we cover? Being that a lot of it has taken place already, and there's not a lot that you can cover throughout all that time. I would say maybe, just maybe, wrestling post 9/11.
Okay.
I still have yet to probably hear that from Dark Side of the Ring. They can cover a lot within that. Of course, that's after the impetus of WCW being bought by WWE earlier within the year.
Hmm.
Post WrestleMania 17, the company is leading towards a much more refined, sorts of professional wrestling that they're putting on their television. But beyond all, shoot, peeps is not much.
Well,
Genuinely, there isn't much.
I think one of the things that it's got to play itself out, but it's going to take some time. But I really would be interested in the McMahon, Janelle Grant, those kinds of things. As far
Peeps,
as when that happens, I'm more interested in what the fallout would be. You know, people like a Laurinaitis, those that were involved in certain things that we are not privy to. That would be an interesting topic to talk about of what's going on in the wrestling business. I would like to actually see them, since we know that they've now done something with TNA. I would love to see them go on to what's going on in AEW. It would be very interesting to see Brawl Out or Brawl
I'm
In.
going to say that.
Those would be
Or,
perfect.
what? When Punk retires, the life and times of CM Punk.
Yes. The rise and fall and rise again of CM Punk. Charles Montgomery, I endorse this message. You know?
I endorse it. I endorse it. I
There you
love it.
go. I
Yes,
approve this message.
certain things like that.
Yes.
Maybe if they wanted to go ahead and go that route, Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
the push that he was supposed to get and all the stuff that happened within the walls of WWE that, probably going to talk about.
Yes. Because it's
Actually,
been covered through a
tomorrow.
lot of shoot interviews. So I can imagine if they did something along those lines of making a Dark Side of the Ring. And although you're probably not going to hear from all of the proponents of everything involved, you'll probably hear secondhand, third hand from other places, and then try to then confirm or deny something that may have happened. So I think that would be perfect to throw in there. But yeah, I would love to hear the stories behind that, because I think since we know now more than we did back then, that Mr. Kennedy got screwed over.
Indeed.
Big time.
Indeed. And I feel like that would be one of those ones that I'd love to tune into. Maybe an Ashley Mazzaro one if they go that route. Although I don't know who would want to go ahead and jump on that bandwagon if they're still connected to WWE. Maybe they won't be able to. But indeed, certain things like that, I would love to go ahead and sit there and see if Dark Side of the Ring would want to cover that. But that's kind of it. But peeps, when it
Yes.
comes down to the second part of that question, concerning Khan and Russo possibly teaming together, and Khan finally
Yes.
peeps. But what are your thoughts on that question? How do you feel about that?
I wouldn't. Well, first off, the fact that this came from the interview that Tony Khan did with Vince Russo, and I believe it was Jonathan Coachman. I believe they were both a part of this. And I know I didn't see all of the Tony Khan interview, but I saw enough to know that there seems to be a rapport between the two. And I know Tony Khan said at some point, he said, well, I never met you. And at first I didn't really like or care for some of the opinions that you had. But now that we've talked and everything else, you seem to be a nice guy, et cetera, et cetera. If they're planning something, I'm not sure. I wouldn't be shocked if Tony Khan decided to take a little bit of advice or something from Vince Russo. I hope he's not.
Peeps. Don't say.
Like I said, I hope he's not. He's smarter. He'd be a smarter person not to.
I feel like there's already people in AEW that are vetoing him from going ahead and doing that. I.e., somebody who lived WCW in the Monday Night Wars, Chris Jericho, the man with 1,004 holds.
Yes.
Even though about 500 of them were armbar.
Yes.
Let's keep it up at 50 here. I think Jericho's already telling him to shoot that down. There is no way in hell. If Tony Khan were to be stupid enough to listen to Vince Russo in the year of our Lord 2026, I'm fully giving up on AEW. I'm sorry, the peeps.
Yes.
No, I don't even want to see a crossover show with his company. No, nothing.
Most fans that have been wrestling fans like us that know as much as we know about the professional wrestling landscape, we know who, for the most part, has been responsible for a lot of things, and the mindset behind a lot of other things. And anybody, if you even believe in anything that Jim Cornette has ever said in life, if you are a wrestling fan and you behold any of the information that Jim Cornette has given you over the last couple of decades, the one thing that you will understand is that there are a lot of things that Vince Russo will say that may make you blink an eye or may make you scratch your head. But for the most part, he comes across as a very jaded individual that is upset because it's just wrestling, bro. You got to understand where I'm coming from, bro.
No.
And anybody that comes up with the idea of making himself that apparent in the eyes of the wrestling business and sounding the way he does about the wrestling business makes you want to pause and kind of reevaluate what you're looking at and what you think about as far as booking wrestling. I remember when Vince Russo was still associated with TNA, and the 2 stints that he did while he was in TNA was enough to make you shake your head like, what the? You saw what he did with WCW. He was good at what he did in WWF because he had Vince McMahon as a filter to kind of streamline whatever ideas that he had, and other people that were in a booking committee, Cornette included, and some of the others that were there. But on his own, Vince Russo has shown, for the most part, not too much as far as what he wants to do with the wrestling business per se. That is going to be something that anyone wants to even watch or take into consideration any importance.
No. Peeps, we can only just hope. We can only hope. That's all we can do.
Yes.
Let's just hope for the best through all. Through it all, hope for the best. But Master Shaw 007, thank you for that question, my friend. And again, to the fans, if you want to go ahead and send in a question, all you got to do is one thing and one thing only. DM us on our Instagram at Saturday Afternoons of the Score Main Event. Send it in. And if it's that damn good, in the words of JBL, I guarantee it'll be on the next episode of the show. But with that being said, peeps, we've made it to the final part of our show today. And It seems like we have a 23-minute countdown to cover as much of this 5-match card that we want to. So look, even perfect. But look, the reality is, peeps, we're now at our Backlash predictions.
Yes.
One thing that I want to go ahead and begin with when it comes down to Backlash isn't the matches, but more so this buzz about John Cena's historic, groundbreaking, big announcement that's supposed to shake the foundation and the core of the WWE, its wrestlers, and its fans for the rest of eternity. What is this supposed to be?
Highfalutin hyperbole right there.
especially if it's only just pertaining to Club WWE, which because I'm hearing that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm thinking.
Peeps. There's no way they're gonna have John Cena do that, right?
Do we need to remind the fans of our show who currently owns WWE right now? The same company that decided that WrestleMania needed to have Pat McAfee in the main event instead of somebody as an established wrestler to help the storyline out. This is the same company that cut 25 or so wrestlers because they're going to cut down on the amount of hours for SmackDown. And we're questioning that John Cena, who is going to show up tonight and have some sort of earth-shattering announcement, is probably going to be the most underwhelming thing out there. That's not a stretch, is it?
Peeps, you're hurting me with this, man. I don't want to. Peeps, in an alternate universe, though.
Yes.
What do you think this groundbreaking news would be? What would be the biggest thing possible for John Cena to go ahead and sit there and announce?
If I had my chance to say this is what you should do, I would say that one of these WrestleManias within the next couple of years is going to London. That would be ground shaking, earth shattering stuff because London deserves a WrestleMania. If Saudi Arabia can get a WrestleMania before London, then, at least the consequence should be, or the consolation should be, that would be something that you would announce. Uh, I would not be shocked if it was that club WWE thing and they start mentioning, oh, here's the earth shattering deal. If you subscribe to the club WWE, you get free tickets to some card or whatever. Who knows? It might be something along those lines, marketing wise.
Also, what? You sign up for Club WWE, you get 55% off tickets for WrestleMania for the next 10 years. What are
Or
they
they,
bringing the NFC BS back? Like, what are we, peeps? If you're not thinking harder enough, peeps. For me, I'm thinking
yes.
earth-shattering, core-shaking news.
Okay.
Why don't you have No Chance in Hell play throughout the arena and have a
Good
pompadour
Lord.
streaming down the stage? Okay, I know. Yeah,
Because if you have the pompadour streaming down the stage, I don't think that'll be the only thing streaming down the stage, if you understand where I'm coming from.
He's
But I
gonna
digress.
puke.
Yes. Oh boy. That's 3 on the day.
Oh, jeez. Okay, you know what? Enough of the theatrics. Let's go ahead and get to this card, peeps.
Yes.
Look, the first match, of course, the singles match: Braun Breaker versus the incomparable visionary himself, Seth Rollins. Peeps, this is how you go ahead and start a feud, and this is supposed to be a big one. You have Braun Breaker win. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Because I don't think this is going to be the only match against Breaker and Rollins. This can't be. There's no
Yes.
way. So for me, I have Braun Breaker taking the first win in their ultimate grudge matches, ultimate set of grudge matches. That's my thought process. How about yourself?
And I'm of the same mindset because one, Seth is a made man. He doesn't
Indeed.
necessarily need the win right now. So, in the mindset of doing this like the way that it has become, you've got to start to push Braun toward that main event tier. And if you're going to start doing that, this is going to be the case. His momentum was stopped after he got hurt. So, you pick up from where you left off and you keep that part moving. And I think that's where they're headed with this. So, I think Braun is going to end up winning this one.
Okay. Well then, from there, the singles match for the WWE United States title. Trick Williams, alongside his best friend currently right now, the unknown but godforsaken gingerbread man himself, risen from the dead Little Yachty, going up against Sami Zayn. Does Sami go ahead and pick up a victory here, ultimately fully turn heel in the process, or does Trick retain? Give me Trick to retain.
Yes. They are not going to have Trick lose the belt after winning it as soon as he did. This is Trick Williams here. The gingerbread man thing works, but also at the same time, you can see at the end what they plan on doing as far as further turning Sami Zayn. And I think that this may be the match where he finally just completes his full turn to the dark side. And showcasing it here in Tampa definitely would be looked for as far as getting him completely over. Because you got to remember, at some point, Melo has got to get back into this. And it's criminal that Melo lost the United States Championship, and we've barely seen any of them since. So I think that the next part of this story has to be Melo getting in there at some point.
Okay. No problem. Well then, we'll be seated. We'll be waiting. We're currently 2 for 2 right now, peeps.
Yes.
The third match, Io Sky versus Asuka. Peeps, I know who's winning this match, but I have a feeling that we get a surprise.
You
remember what?
Speak, brother. Speak.
Okay. You're gonna tell me to get out your head in a couple of minutes. You know, they did it with We Want Truth. We got the truth at Money in the Bank. The world is screaming, we want Kyrie. I think the world knows how much. I think the WWE knows how much we think of Kyrie. I think Triple H knows how much he thinks of Kyrie. And he knows he didn't want this to happen. But of course, it all happened. Now, with every single fan breathing down TKO's necks, they're going to want to seem like the good people in a sense. Kairi Sane is coming back tonight. She's going to interfere in this match and cost Asuka the match. And Io Sky is going to win. That is my thought process.
Yes. And once again, you continue to get into my medulla oblongata and run around in there and pick out exactly what I was thinking. Because there has to be closure to this feud.
Indeed.
The way that this was the way that this was set up, in having all of the proponents involved in this, and having Kairi being bullied by Asuka, and knowing that at some point she was at the precipice of having that turn where she was going to become a face and start to push back against Asuka. They had to basically allude to all of this while there was no Kairi in this feud. And they did that last week with the interview that they did with Asuka and Io, and then Asuka using the blue mist in Io's face to kind of accentuate the danger involved. But now that we have this here, if this is going to truly be the end of this feud between these two, Kairi has to show up. Not saying that she will, but if she does, this would be the perfect place to place her in there to get that over and help Io get the win. So yes, I'm thinking even if the contingency is there is no Kairi and they're just a disappointment, Io has to win this.
Io still has to win, exactly.
Yes.
I agree. Well then, from there, we move towards the next match that's supposed to have another surprise. The Miz and Kit Wilson up against Toxic Danhausen and TBA Hausen, as it says here on the screen. No, okay, jokes aside, guys, but this is supposed to be another wrestler that Danhausen is supposed to find within the next... Damn, well, Backlash is literally in about 5 more hours. So look, in about 5 to 6 more hours, Danhausen needs a tag team partner.
Yes.
Peeps. I saw throughout various tweets, he's out here trying to find a tag team partner. He tagged Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Triple H, and a whole bunch of other more WWE legends just to go ahead and try to see if he can bribe them with $4 human dollars.
Yes. Human dollars, yes.
Partner. But he alluded a couple of days ago that his tag team partner loves money. Then now we're getting talks that it's supposed to be Jelly Roll. How we go from Shane McMahon to Jelly Roll in the span of 72 hours, peeps? What are we doing? What are we doing? Peeps, I think we know Danhausen, whoever his tag team partner is going to win this match.
Yes, peeps, it could be a rubber glove as far as we know. Danhausen's going to win.
Nicholas makes his return. Why not?
Yes. There you go.
Guys. I'm sorry. Look, all we know is Danhausen and his tag team partner are winning. Notice down for that. But look, peeps, the last match, the singles match for the World Heavyweight title. Jacob Fatu up against his older cousin, Roman Reigns. Peeps, last night Jacob Fatu said something very unique. He said to Jimmy and Jay that if they even think about interfering in tonight's match, Jacob swore on everything that he will burn the family tree down to the ground.
Yes.
I'm just saying, if there is an interference, wouldn't you suspect another family member making a debut? I'm just saying, just maybe. I haven't really heard much about one Zilla Fatu on the indies as of now.
Okay.
Peace. I'm just saying, can Zilla Fatu come into the WWE tonight? What's the possibilities? What's the
I don't know if he will show up tonight, but the one thing that I will say, and this got my ears really at attention, is knowing that after, and this goes into our TKO discussion that we've had over the last 3 weeks, that we know that Roman Reigns stated not that long ago that he was going to be full time throughout the summer. And then we find out he's not going to be on any card for Monday Night Raw throughout the entirety of June. As a matter of fact, what is it? Night of Champions is going to be in Riyadh in June the
Riyadh
27th in Riyadh.
is
So
not
he's not
booked
going to
on
be on
that
the
show.
card at all. Now, given that Night of Champions is what it is, usually either that or Crown Jewel or whatever one they show where all of the championships seem to be on the line for whatever reason, we know that Roman is not going to show up for that unless card subject to change. But my thought process is, what sense would it make to put the World Heavyweight Championship on Roman Reigns and then advertise that he's going to be there throughout the summer if he's not? And then he beats Jacob Fatu, and you don't see him again until July or maybe August, which is around SummerSlam time.
I mean,
what are you going to do for that World Championship?
I mean, Peeps, isn't he proposed to also be at Clash in Italy?
Well, if he does show up, that would be something. But wouldn't it be interesting, just for the yeoman's term, that I give you the 1% that Jacob Fatu wins the championship tonight? The 1% odd that happens. To bring Roman back in to show that since he's off television without the championship, because we know Raw's ratings have gone up since Roman has been on the brand. We know that more eyeballs are showing up on Monday Night Raw because Roman was champion. And see what happens there. What do they do if he does not show up and he ends up losing the championship to Jacob Fatu?
Peeps. Wait. Are you implying that you think there is a shot tonight for Jacob Fatu to win the World Heavyweight title?
A 1% chance.
Peeps, 1%. You know how many? Yo, this is what I hate, guys. Because every single time it genuinely happens. I sat here. And I always have to allude to this to our current viewers who probably weren't watching back in 2023. I sat there walking into WrestleMania 39 saying to everybody that Cody Rhodes was going to win. Peeps introduced there's a 1% chance Roman walks out as champion. And it happened. You know, Peeps. So are you saying right now that 99% of you is going with Roman Reigns?
Yes.
But the 1% is going with Jacob Fatu.
Yes. This is not a deadlock, punch it in, Roman is going to win. Because in the back of my brain, I'm looking at how they want to plan this out. And if it makes much more sense to say you've got Jacob Fatu, angry, destructive, destroying everything around him. And based on that quote that he made and all of the stuff that's been going on, you need to do something to excite the fans instead of giving them Bloodline 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. Doesn't it make a lot of sense to have Jacob Fatu potentially win that championship? I'm just saying. It probably won't happen, but I'm going to reserve that 1% that it does, in the sense that if Roman is going to be off of television for a month or so, what does that do on Monday Night Raw to not have a champion representing anything between now and the next pay-per-view that they do?
Now, again, I myself, I sit there and I see what they say when it came down to post-WrestleMania and we had the whole press conference and we heard that Oba said that he was coming for Roman Reigns. Roman then impeded and said, let's see how you do through the summer and then we'll talk. Peeps, I have a feeling that they are really just making Roman look strong. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy that we're bringing this phrase back up. Mm-hmm. Only to fall to Obafemi. Mm-hmm. Look at the size of people that Roman's going up against in this span of time. Yes. It was even funny that it was reported that Jacob wasn't even going to be Roman's first real face-off post WrestleMania. It was supposed to be Gunther.
Yeah.
So in that sense, if these are the type of matches you're going to be setting up for Roman Reigns, leading all the way into summer through SummerSlam, whatnot, or maybe at SummerSlam when he does face Oba, maybe, just maybe, you're giving it a sense of, okay, like, have him beat some of these outlandish, insane psychopaths.
Yes.
And that's my thought process, because now think about it, peeps. You have a do-over now. I think the war between Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu isn't fully over. It's Backlash. The thought of it is for people to get revenge. Peeps. Drew McIntyre is going to screw Jacob Fatu and impede a shot at Roman Reigns for the undisputed World Heavyweight title at Clash in Italy.
Okay. And it would make sense, because now if we have Walter now moving over to SmackDown, you bring Drew back over to Raw.
Exactly.
Makes sense if that was the case, and you freshen both storylines up. But then again, the problem is, you know, what happens at the top of the card with CM Punk? Because we know CM Punk is probably going to take a little time off and do what he needs to do to get himself ready after his loss at WrestleMania. Let's see where they go from there.
Peeps. This is the summer.
Yes.
Okay? Backlash isn't until after the summer.
Yeah.
Wait. Not Backlash. Money in the Bank. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Think about it, peeps. CM Punk winning his third Money in the Bank in WWE history.
Yeah.
Possibly having a chance to win whatever title he chooses. I'm just saying.
Yes.
That's my thought process going into Money in the Bank. That is how I see it. Because remember, he said, you never know when a chance of having the World Heavyweight title or a World Championship opportunity fall right into your hands.
Yes.
Hey, Money in the Bank is my thought process. That's what I'm.
There you go.
I don't need to go ahead and worry about Punk. Punk is kind of like a non-factor currently as of right now. I don't see anything for Punk to have to get into a feud about. That's just me. Yeah. But as of right now, I would think that because this is Backlash in the history of all goods and purposes of Backlash, you need retribution. You need revenge for something.
Yes.
This is Jacob's chance to highlight himself in a main event spot with his cousin, but now this is a chance for fans to revisit Roman and Drew, with Roman not having to need his family. The story writes itself. That's just me. That's just me. But I'll have Roman Reigns in this match, peeps. So, look.
Well, we both have Roman. It's just a matter of that 1% that I'm saying, like, you know, I can see Jacob coming out of this as champ. I can see it.
You know what, peeps? If this happens, I want you by next week to impede that there is a 1% chance that I will win the lottery. Please. But with that being said, guys, this marks the end of our Backlash predictions. And in all intensive purposes, this also marks the end to today's show.
Yes.
So, guys, thank you for tuning in on this great episode of Same. I hope you guys enjoy Backlash taking place later tonight. First hour on ESPN2. The rest of the show being on the ESPN app. And for those who don't feel like paying ESPN or Walt Disney any of your money, VPN.
We need to get like an NWO type of shirt and just put VPN on there, you know? By the way, TKO, they stink, because I don't know if you've been hearing this, that they've been also copyright striking pro wrestling creators on YouTube. The streamers that are out there. They really are trying to piss everybody off. So yeah.
I mean, it's TKO. What can you possibly expect from them?
Yeah.
They're taking this over and they're ruining it for us. All we can do is just sit there and wait for them to go ahead and implode to their depths. But
there you go.
That will never happen as long as everybody wants to continue pumping money into it. So, all in all, it is what it is. But this is the world of professional wrestling. Like I know it, like Peeps knows it, and like you, the fans, know it. So thank you again for tuning in on this week's episode. We will see you next week for the following episode of Same and our Backlash review then. But it is with that we say that this was Saturday afternoon's main event. We're out of Phenomenal One.
And I, the Peeps Nation, for also Mr. 411. Well, hopefully we'll see him next week. We came.
And the birthday Uncle Triple C, who celebrated his birthday just yesterday. Happy birthday. Well, I did say happy birthday yesterday.
Yeah. He'll be celebrating it the rest of the month.
Exactly. But, I don't know if he's accepting it from me because I'm a deadbeat nephew. So, it is what it is. Dominic Mysterio didn't call you, though. I digress. Anywho, yes, where we came.
Yes, we saw. And in the words of the great Paul Heyman,
People having flashbacks from last week. It's okay, but we conquered.
There you go.
See you guys next week. Phenomenal One, Peeps Nate. This was saying peace, love, and farewell.